Hebrews. This is our Prophets of Awakening. This is our Advanced Israelite Bible Study for the 5th of April, 2022. I'm picking up a conversation about the Amorites and also verses Genesis 15, verse 16, to the iniquity of the Amorites. So I'm going to dive into that, got some more information on that. So we can start the conversation tonight. You know, everybody can go do some research and we'll pick it back up again on Friday. Okay. I'm asking everybody to like, share, and subscribe to Prophets of Awakening channel and hit the notification button if you can. This is a non-Messianic channel. We deal with the Tanakh and the Torah. Tanakh is the Old Testament, so-called Book of Remembrance, and the Torah is the 35 books of the Old Testament that was given to Moses on Mount Sinai by the Lord of Hosts, our Redeemer. Shalom and welcome everyone to Prophets of Awakening channel, and welcome to our Advanced Israelite Bible Study. We're going to do our routine moment of silence, our prayer, Psalms, current events, and then we'll go into a little Q&A, and then we'll go into the lesson discussion. Okay, this moment of silence is for the Lord of Hosts and all that He's doing, along with the Creator, to bring about our deliverance from our oppressors. Oh Lord, we come before Thee, thanking You for Your mercy and Your great power. And we appreciate You, O Lord, for Your patience and guidance in these last days. Oh Lord, we thank You for Your awakening of us to this great understanding of Your word. We come before Thee that You keep, direct, and guide us through the upcoming week. Oh Lord, there's trials and pestilence and mayhem at every turn. And we see Your mighty hand in the world's affairs and how You are instructing Your people's deliverance. And we trust and rely upon Thee. And for this cause, we honor and respect You greatly. Turn not Thy face from us, but allow Thy face to shine upon us in our searching of You, to find You, O Lord, and to dwell with You. Peace be on You. Okay. Read the Psalms. I'm going to read Psalms 29, the voice of the Lord in the storm, the Psalm of David. Give unto the Lord, O ye mighty, give unto the Lord glory and strength. Give unto the Lord the glory due unto His name. Worship the Lord in the beauty of holiness. The voice of the Lord is upon the waters. The God of glory thundereth. The Lord is upon many waters. The voice of the Lord is powerful. The voice of the Lord is full of majesty. The voice of the Lord breaketh the cedars. Yea, the Lord breaketh the cedars of Lebanon. He maketh them also skip like a calf. Lebanon and Syria are like a young unicorn. The voice of the Lord divideth the flames of fire. The voice of the Lord shaketh the wilderness. The Lord shaketh the wilderness of Kadesh. The voice of the Lord maketh the hinds of calves, and the discomfort the forest. And in His temple doeth everyone speak of His glory. The Lord sitteth upon the flood. Yea, the Lord sitteth king forever. The Lord will give strength unto His people. The Lord will bless His people with peace. So this was Psalm 29, the voice of the Lord in the storm. Anybody got anything on that? Okay, I got verse 10 says, the Lord sitteth upon the flood. Yea, the Lord sitteth king forever. Let's see what that is. I'm in Genesis chapter 1. Chapter 1, verse 1. In the beginning, God, Yahweh, created the heavens and the earth. In verse 2, the earth was without form and void. Darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God, just the angel of God, moved upon the face of the waters. So if you go back, Psalm 29, verse 10, the Lord sitteth upon the flood. Yea, the Lord sitteth king forever. You see what that is? The angel of the Lord. Okay? Thought I'd shine light on that. Okay. Anybody got any current events?
I just want to mention one that didn't know if you all knew about. Biden is moving to reverse Trump era limits on green cards. So, if you have a green card, you're able to, get assistance and things like that when Trump had, kind of put a stop to that.
Right.
But Biden is trying to get that reversed, which he probably will.
Okay.
Yeah,
There should be no surprise.
exactly.
Trying to give them $450,000 a piece. So
Right. So they'll be able to get all those benefits just like, everybody else gets, even though they have a green card.
okay. What they're saying? Yeah, they'll be able to get benefits. A lot of we Americans ain't getting.
Exactly.
Actually, black Americans, because they're gonna put you through hell if you gotta get them.
But they're going to give it to them at a drop of a dime.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, that's why this place coming down. Is there some? They got a couple. You got the first one right here. Okay. Can you see that?
Yes.
Smart Silver Stacker here. Earlier this week, Russia announced that its central bank would be purchasing gold at a fixed price in rubles. And this is a very serious development for the global economy. It has some serious implications for how payments for international trade will be settled. It also has some really serious implications for the dollar and for gold and possibly for silver moving forward. And that is what we are going to be talking about in this video. So let's get to it.
All right, so here's the headline that we got from Kitco on Monday, March 28th. Russia sets fixed gold price as it restarts official bullion purchases. And essentially what is going on here is the Russian central bank has announced that they will be paying a fixed price of 5,000 rubles per gram of gold between March 28th and June 30th. And so this is a pretty important development because basically what the Russians are doing here is they are putting a floor under the price of gold. Now, at the time they made this announcement, that wasn't extremely significant because I believe they made this announcement on March 25th, the Friday before that article came out. We can take a look here at this chart of the ruble to US dollar currency pairing. And if we look back at March 25th, around the time they made this announcement, you can see that the price of a ruble was right at 1 cent. So basically 100 rubles to a US dollar. However, since that time, we can see that the ruble has appreciated quite a bit. And it's corrected a little bit from its highs here that it hit on March 31st, but it's a lot higher than it was when they made this announcement. And that's important because first, we need to take a look at the price of a gram of gold. So over here at goldprice.org, we can see that right now, a gram of gold in dollar terms is about $61.88. All right, so why is that important? Well, like I said, at the time they made this announcement, it was 100 rubles to a dollar and 5,000 rubles. So that's 5,000, and we just multiply that by 1 cent. It comes out to a price of about 50 US dollars per gram. That's what they were paying at the time they made the announcement. So significantly below the spot price of gold. However, as you can see, like I said, the price of the ruble has moved up since that time. Right now, we're sitting at about 1.18 cents. I know that seems like a small move in absolute terms, but if you look at it in percentage terms, it's a move up of 18%. So that's pretty significant. And now if we take 5,000 rubles and we just multiply that by the new exchange rate, we can see that now in dollar terms, the central bank of Russia would be paying about $59 per gram. So getting significantly closer to the current spot price. If this number exceeds the spot price, that essentially is going to drive the price of gold that much higher. And just for an example, if we take, say, the high that the ruble hit here on March 31st, so a 1.32 cents per ruble, and we figure out the gold price using that, well, then you take 5,000 rubles and you multiply it by 0.0132, and you can see that that's $66 per gram. So that's actually above the current spot price. So if we see the ruble continue to move higher, and we may very well see that because, as we know, Russia is now demanding payment for Russian gas and oil in rubles. So as we see those European countries go out onto the market and buy rubles in order to make their energy purchases, this is going to stimulate demand for rubles, and we may see the price of the ruble, the exchange rate, move even higher. And if it does, that is going to drive the price of gold that much higher. So, it is only a temporary thing. It's until June 30th. But of course, we could see the central bank extend those purchases of gold beyond that date. And I really just think that this is not getting enough attention in the mainstream media, and it may be a perfect storm for gold. What will that mean for silver? I'm not really sure. We may see actually gold begin to move a little bit faster than silver. We may see an expansion of the gold to silver ratio. Right now, it's somewhere in the 70s. And that is kind of the high end. But, as we saw back in March of 2020, that ratio can actually move much higher. So something to keep your eye on. If we see the ruble move up a lot as a result of this move by Russia to sell their...
Okay. Any comments? Okay, yeah. So the reason I'm showing that is showing you that they undermining the United States government, and they undermining our currency. So, and you see, he's showing you where it's actually the ruble is increasing. What they want to do is they want to knock the dollar off its standard. The dollar is the standard all over the world right now, and China and Russia is working together to bring that down. Well, they got us throwed off with the Ukraine and the Russian war. They showing the bottom of numbers. Okay. Okay, got another one right here. Not bad. You see that?
Yes.
Okay, so while Biden trying to blow up the Mexicans,
the United States. You might remember Hunter Biden, the scandalous son of Joe Biden. Well, he's back in the news, and this time for living a luxurious life, apparently at the expense of American taxpayers. Hunter Biden has rented a $20,000 mansion in California. And this is right next to the U.S. Secret Service, renting another mansion worth $30,000. Why would the Secret Service need that? To provide round-the-clock security to the president's son. And this story is going viral. American citizens are outraged. They're accusing the Biden administration of wasting public money. Here's a report.
Joe Biden is our dad. We want to tell you what kind of president our dad will be.
Meet Hunter Biden, Joe Biden's 52-year-old son, often described as Biden's soft spot. Also his Achilles heel, courtesy his never-ending scandals. From being thrown out of the U.S. Navy for cocaine abuse, to having an illegitimate child with a stripper, to having an affair with his dead brother's widow. Hunter's life has always been the fodder for American tabloids, and he keeps giving them more. Ever since his father became president, Hunter has been living a life of luxury. Look at these images. They're from Malibu, California, a city famous for its beaches and rave parties. Hunter has rented a palatial mansion here, a property worth $20,000 a month. It has 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, vaulted high ceilings, spacious yards, a pool, a spa, even a chef's kitchen. Now, first of all, there's no clarity on whether Hunter is paying for this himself or if he's using his father's money to foot the bill. What's worse is the presence of US Secret Service officials here. This is Hunter's pad. Right next to it is a Secret Service base, another plush mansion worth $30,000 a month. Yes, the Biden administration is spending such obscene amounts of money to keep around-the-clock watch on the president's son. This is happening at the American taxpayers' cost. The Secret Service uses public money to protect the first family. This revelation comes at a time when a federal probe into Hunter Biden's tax affairs has intensified. An increasing number of witnesses are appearing before a jury in Delaware. They're giving testimonies about the payments Biden Jr. received. While serving on the board of directors of a Ukrainian natural gas company in the run-up to the 2020 U.S. elections. The Democrats, along with the American media, called the accusations a mere conspiracy theory. Now that Biden is in the White House and Hunter hasn't mended his ways, the same media houses are reporting on his shenanigans without any mercy.
Okay. Any comments?
Well, this, I don't know, kind of make me think this is the reason why Ukraine is saying so much on why Biden should be assisting them in the war. Maybe it's more to that, because didn't Trump want them to do an investigation when Biden ran for president?
Yeah.
In reference to this, man.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's more into this. Yeah.
Right. So before this even happened, it's a scandal going on with him and the Chinese. You think that's a coincidence? And now we didn't even know it, but now if the Ukrainian war broke out, he just said he got some kind of ties to Ukraine.
Exactly.
The gas and oil in Ukraine. Is that something? Oh, that ain't no coincidence.
Right. And people forget about things that has happened and surfaced in the past. They just don't tie it together. But it's more to this story.
Right. It's just like with Trump. It wasn't no coincidence. He had some kind of scandal going on with Russia around the same time he won the presidency. They working in advance, knowing what's going to happen in the near future, and they working ahead of it. It's like those people with the stock market. They got inside information on what stock gonna do what, so they already set up and propped up by the time when the stock do something, they already got their money invested in.
Right.
And so, yeah. So let's see what else I got right here. Yeah, here goes. This ties to the same thing we just talking about. Look at this here. Tell me if this is a coincidence. Okay.
Does Ukraine have biological weapons? The answer was a very carefully phrased, Ukraine has biological research facilities, after which Senator Rubio himself gave her the exit clause by putting the blame on Russia potentially doing a false flag operation in the future. Ms. Parthmore, clearly the American government is not being able to deny the fact that Ukraine has biological research facilities which can possibly be used in biological warfare as well. That's quite clear. I'd like your response, please.
Yeah, let me be absolutely clear. In very direct language, we do not believe that the Ukrainians have biological weapons programs. They have been a champion for non-proliferation since they became an independent nation. I absolutely do not believe that there are any biological weapons activities that have been conducted at any of these laboratories as assisted by the United States or by the Ukrainians.
What are biolabs? What are the biolabs which are there in Ukraine? Can you tell us more about what these biolabs are?
Absolutely. So one of the original impetuses for setting up these laboratories in the former Soviet Union was because of the Soviet biological weapons program. They had huge industrial scale biological weapons facilities in places like Kazakhstan. And we've been concerned over the years, including because they established and expanded these programs after signing the biological weapons program. We've been very concerned that Russia may still have a biological weapons program. But that's not the primary purpose. That's one driver of setting up these laboratories.
What are the biolabs? What you have been, Ms. Parthmo.
So you see what's going on, right? All this time, America been behind the scenes setting Ukraine up. Ain't that something?
Or, Ms. Parthmo, what are the biolabs? There are 16 of them. 16 of them
So they
on America, on Ukrainian soil. Am I correct?
Correct. Just as labs around India
What do they conduct?
research for public health purposes, they conduct public health research. Similar to labs all around the world that do public health research.
That's very generic. Can you be more specific than that? Can you be more specific than that? What do they study?
Absolutely. They study influenzas and other pathogens that have the risk of affecting humans and animals and livestock and agriculture. They essentially serve as an early warning system.
And does this study involve developing pathogens as well?
No.
Then how do you know what pathogens there are? And why is there such panic? What are the pathogens which, as it has been said out here, that if these specific pathogens get away, then they can be very dangerous, which means inside those biolabs in Ukraine, there are some dangerous pathogens. And all of this is happening under the DTRA, the Defense Threat Reduction Agency, right? And the DTRA actually got millions for low visibility chemical and biological search that would meet quote unquote specific combatant command requirements, which means they were being used for a military purpose, which means therefore, and I am quoting information that has come from Pentagon, that means millions have gone into the development of low visibility chemical and biological research that will meet specific combatant command requirements, which means they're being used for the US military.
There's work that's occurring for defensive purposes as well as public health purposes. The U.S. Department of Defense has more than 100
No, but they're being used for military purposes. See,
diseases.
that is very different, Ms. Parthmo. Ms. Parthmo, I think you need to explain this because you just tried to tell me some time back, in fact, about a minute back, that this was for public health, whereas I have come to you and I have just confronted you and said that there has been increased funding for the Nimble Elder program of the Defense Threat Research Agency, which is driven by quote-unquote classified Department of Defense guidance, and this is aimed with low visibility, which means the world should not know, chemical and biological research for military purposes. But you just said public health. This doesn't sound like public health to me at all. What are you doing in Ukraine, Ms. Parthmo? Would you care to clarify, please? Because you have used biological weapons and chemical weapons in the past. We're getting very concerned, please. Can you tell us what exactly is going on in the biolabs in Ukraine?
The United States ceased to have biological and chemical weapons programs after signing on to the Biological Weapons Convention and the Chemical Weapons Convention. This work.
Okay. Any comments?
So if Russia bombs one of these laboratories, right, then these, whatever pathogens or whatever you want to call them can get out.
Right.
And destroy a lot of people while they trying to cover this up.
Right.
Because they have them over there.
Right. Right. But it's way bigger than that. It's a moral issue because that's what their whole purpose of saying about Curie and all this hell they done put Iran through about getting biological weapons. And here they go, they're over here on the ground, sneaking behind the back, pumping biological weapons into Ukraine. That's what the guy exposed. And then if you notice, all them other guys that was there too, they was all together.
Right.
They all in behind bringing this place down because they wicked as hell. They tired of messing with them. They set it up for going, bring this place down. They're tired of them.
And Putin is exposing a lot of information that, they're trying to say, his word is not, worthy, but he's revealing a lot of stuff.
Right. Exactly. That's like what he's doing with that ruble.
Right.
That's real dangerous. Nobody not really understanding what that is. It's a time bomb. They done turned the hourglass upside down and sand running out because you see the guy say the ruble is gaining steam. If it's gaining steam, that means the dollar is steady falling off.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, son?
Man.
Oh yeah. And they got that wicked ass stuff going on with Hunter Biden. Okay, son?
Exactly.
Okay. Here go another. This is a prophecy right here.
Now, excuse me, I want to say too, that's why Biden is bringing a lot of their citizens over here.
Right. They got a connection going on.
Oh,
just like
okay. Yeah. Just right. Thinking. Yeah, right.
And before it wasn't exposed until the war broke out. Because nobody know nothing about no Ukraine or none of that. But now it's being exposed that the Biden's been dealing with Ukraine.
Right.
Just like Trump had been dealing with Putin. Before the 2016 election and all that, he had been dealing with him. Yeah.
And they involved in so much more that we know nothing about. Because if you really think about it, why would an American want to be connected to, you know what I'm saying? Foreign boards like that. Like, well, I do know, but
because they've been doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've been doing it. You got to think about, those like a nightclub, and you got 1,500 people or 2,500 people coming through there in the run of a week, and look at the money you're making. So
right.
We're looking at those little countries like Ghana and them little countries like that, and you got somebody from over here, some crook from over here, and he swindling money out of that country. That's a lot of money coming through their hands. There's not a lot of money compared to a major country like China or America, but there's a lot of money coming through there because of the numbers, the people. And they've been doing that, bleeding the people dry like that.
Right.
And putting them in binds and causing, blackmailing them. Yeah.
And it just keep worse and worse because they money hungry. They just, and they just continue to do more and more. And that's why in Proverbs it says, do not envy the wicked.
Right. And now all that's being exposed.
It's being exposed.
They're tired of them. People tired of them. And paid out. Yeah. Okay, not bad. Got a little need to know information right here. Okay. Okay.
Sahara is the largest desert in the world, filling nearly all of northern Africa. It measures approximately 3,000 miles. The Sahara is bordered in the west.
Like I said before, when you look at this, the Most High created it in the beginning. He said he brought the land up out of the water and it was good. So you have to ask yourself what happened to the Sahara. See how that here? You see vegetation all over here, but something happened right here. But check out what's happening now. Most High prophesied he was going to turn the desert back into start making it bud. Here we go.
By the Atlantic Ocean, in the north by the Atlas Mountains, in the Mediterranean Sea, in the east by the Red Sea, and in the south by the Sahel. The Sahel forms a transitional zone between the Sahara to the north and the belt of the humid savannas to the south. In the semi-arid region of the Sahel, the advancement of the Sahara Desert continues to be a threat due to land management, overgrazing, and droughts in the region. It's fast becoming completely desertified. This land loss is a driver of many other problems such as hunger, poverty, unemployment, forced migration, conflict, as well as an increased risk of extreme weather events. However, the country Niger in the African Sahara region has been making some astonishing agricultural developments, turning large areas suffering from desertification into agricultural fields. In Niger, 5 million hectares of land with over 200 million trees have been restored, with 2.5 million people benefiting from the improved use of land. This transformation can be called a major accomplishment for any country, especially when a country only receives an average of 6.5 inches of rainfall a year. In this video, we're going to tell you how and why Niger is turning its deserts into huge farmlands. So stick with us and let's dive into today's video.
Any comments so far? Okay. Yeah, that's one of the promises that he said he made. He's going to turn the desert.
Niger, which is officially a republic, is a landlocked country.
This is where we came from, Niger.
In West Africa, named after the Niger River. Over 80% of its land area lies in the Sahara Desert. Those trying to grow crops in the Sahel region are often faced with poor soil, erratic rainfall, and long periods of drought. Farmers faced significant tree losses in the 1970s and 80s as a result of drought, the expansion of cropland, and human pressure. Because few trees remained on the fields, farmers often witnessed their newly planted crops being destroyed by the wind erosion. Africa is currently losing 4 million hectares of forest every year for this reason, yet has more than 700 million hectares of degraded land viable for restoration. By bringing degraded land back to life, farmers do not have to clear additional forest land to turn it into cropland for Africa's rising population and growing food demands. Restoring degraded land back to productive good health is a huge opportunity for Africa. It brings big social and economic benefits to rural farming communities. It helps combat climate change and brings technology to enhance traditional knowledge. One of the main regenerative initiatives, which is restoring 5 million hectares of land in Niger, is Farm-Managed Natural Regeneration, known as FMNR. FMNR is a low-cost land restoration technique used to combat poverty and hunger amongst poor subsistence farmers by increasing food and timber production and resilience to climate extremes. FMNR increases the productivity and resilience of crop fields and pasture lands in the challenging growing conditions of Africa's Sahel. It is a technology that has proven amongst the most transformative of all. FMNR started in 1983 in Niger, pioneered by Tony Ronaldo, an Australian agronomist who is widely known as the forest maker. Having lived and worked in African countries for several decades, he has discovered and put into practice a solution to the extreme deforestation and desertification of the Sahel region. FMNR is a form of coppicing and pollarding, drawing on traditional practices and sensitive to the local variations. By choosing the right plants and pruning and protecting them in a certain way, farmers can help them grow into trees. With a simple set of management practices, farmers can regenerate and protect existing local vegetation, which has helped to improve the livelihoods of millions. Growing trees and forests in a sustainable way can restore degraded lands, build resilience, and help people and societies adapt to climate change. Protecting and enhancing forests are also an essential way to combating climate change. A forest can absorb about 2 billion tons of carbon dioxide annually. FMNR technique is hugely successful compared to tree planting schemes, which have a notoriously low success rate. Scarcely 10% of seedlings survive the heat and dust storms of Niger, and
The surviving ones would be eaten by goats or cut down by people for firewood. Success came when Tony Ronaldo noticed that the millions of small bushes in the savannah were actually stumps of trees growing back. The shoots from the new stumps just needed to be managed, pruned, and cared for in order to grow into a tree. This is when Tony Ronaldo developed the concept of farmer-managed natural regeneration, FMNR, a very simple set of actions that farmers can take to regreen their land. First, farmers survey the land and choose among the existing local species the right ones to regenerate. Second, farmers select the few stems that they want to grow, while cutting the rest to be used as fodder, mulch, or similar. Then the selected stems are pruned to halfway of the trunk. Finally, the farmer marks the regrowing trees and protects them. The process is repeated every 2 to 6 months. Farmer-managed natural regeneration became an enormous success in Niger because of its simplicity, local adaptability, low cost, about 20 USD per hectare, easy combination with agricultural methods, and quick results. The methods spread through peer-to-peer learning among farmers, with limited need for outside intervention. In Niger, 5 million hectares of land with over 200 million trees have been restored this way, with 2.5 million people benefiting from the improved use of land, and at least 25 countries, mainly in Africa, are already using this.
I think what the Most High said, he was going to make the desert blossom.
Yes.
Okay.
Wow.
I think what we're looking at. Yeah. Signs all over the place. Okay. Anybody got? I'm gonna open it up for questions and comments. Anybody got any questions or comments about anything they've been dealing with? Something they came across? Okay. I'm gonna stick to the topic. We got this one video, and then we go into the dealing with these Amorites. Okay. Do you see that?
Yes.
So it says China's preparing for war with the U.S. And it says Asia by preparing for partnering with Russia. Expert 1. Say Atlas Organization founder and author Jonathan D.T. Ward joined the Fox Business Maria Barr, I don't know their name, Tuesday to discuss the implications behind the recent phone call between Chinese and Ukrainian diplomats, what he calls an attempt at playing both sides, as well as China's ultimate goal going forward. Ward said that partnering with Russia is one of the one measure China is taking to prepare war with Asia and the U.S. Play this right here.
Is preparing for war with the United States and Asia. And if and when that happens, they want Russia as their partner on that day. This is a joint idea of taking down the U.S.-led order. I mean, they've been absolutely clear about that in their communications. And being able to work together and building their military relationship and having that underlying economic relationship in which China absolutely has the upper hand and therefore a great deal of leverage over Russia. But they have a shared joint ideological enterprise. Beijing is recycling Moscow's propaganda, and then they're, I think, on the same page about their idea of contesting the United States in both Europe and Asia. So that's really the deeper heart of this matter. Beijing is not going to throw that away because they sort of need Russia in order to fulfill their broader geopolitical goals. So for those reasons, I mean, I think it remains a very robust partnership, but they've obviously put themselves in the trap of having at this point raised a lot of skepticism in Europe. and I think people are calling into question their economic relations, and that's where we need to take action. And the idea that we're going to keep on building or deepening economic relations with China is just totally misguided at this point. Not only the genocide and military buildup, but the support for Moscow in the first major land war in Europe in 75 years. And this should be enough for us to understand that it's time to roll back the economic relationship. And you can start by looking at the Chinese companies that are going to be tacitly engaging with Russia as the regime comes under further pressure.
Ain't that something? So, like I said, the writing on the wall, but we so caught up in this wicked ass lifestyle we live in, we can't see it. Just like Balthazar. One day he was drinking out of the golden cups. The next day he's on his back. Okay. Any comments? Okay. So, if nobody have any comments, I'm gonna go and dive off into this thing with the Amorites. So, for those that don't know who the Amorites are, we're gonna go to a couple places in the Bible before we get started. First place I'm gonna go is Genesis chapter 15, verse 16. Okay. And it says, it's tied to the prophecy that Abraham made about the 400 years. So I'm going to start at verse 9. It says, and he said unto him, take a heifer. Start at verse 7. And he said unto him, I am the Lord that brought thee up out of the land of Ur, the Chaldeans, to give thee the land to inherit it. And he said, Lord God, whereby should I know that I inherited? And he said unto him, take one. Let me see. Take me a heifer of 3 years old, and a she-goat of 3 years old, and a ram of 3 years old, turtle dove, and a young pigeon. And he took unto him all these and divided them in the midst, and laid each piece one against another, but the birds divided he not. And when the fowls came down upon the carcasses, Abraham drove them away. And when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abram, and lo, a horror of great darkness fell upon him. And he said unto Abram, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterwards shall they come out with great substance. Then 15 says, and thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace, and thou shalt be buried in a good old age. In verse 16, but in the fourth generation they shall come hither again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. So you have to look at that, because you got a lot of people that focus in on this verse in verse 13 says that, and he said unto Abram, know for surety thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years, right? So a lot of people focusing on that, but look how verse 16 stick out. Verse 16 is going a whole nother direction. It's all of a sudden it says in verse 16, but in the fourth generation they shall come hither again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. So ain't no Amorites nowhere else in chapter 15. All of a sudden get to verse 16, and then he bring up the Amorites. So first thing I said was, who was the Amorites? What's going on? Why is he, all this that he's talking about in chapter 15 is based on verse 16, the iniquity of the Amorites. Okay, so now we're going to go to Genesis chapter 10. So, Genesis chapter 10, like I said, I'm just shaking a tree. So people can go do their research, and then we can come back and talk about this again and build on it. So we're dealing with the Amorites, right? So I'm in Genesis chapter 10, verse 6. Notice verse 10, verses 2 through 5 says that that's Japhet's lineage. And verse 5 says, these were the isles of the Gentiles, divided in their nation after everyone after his own, after his tongue, and after his families in their nation. So when you read that right, ain't but one set of Gentiles right here. He lists the Gentiles, who they are, from verse 2 to verse 5. And then he lists Ham's lineage. Ham ain't no Gentile. So let's get that straight. Ham ain't no Gentile, which, they tell you that in the New Testament. First of all, they say we Africans, and then they say we Gentiles. People over there in Israel right now is the Israelites, the Jews, and we Gentiles. But like I said, when you read this with the right understanding, we see 2 through 5, and verse 5 tells you these are the isles of the Gentiles. That's the people that we Japhet before you get to verse 5. Verses 2, 3, and 4 list the Gentiles. Ain't no other Gentiles. So then we get to verse 6. And the sons of Ham, Cush, Mizraim, Put, and Canaan, right? We keep going. Sons of Cush, Sheba, Havilah, Saba, and Rima. I can't pronounce a lot of these names. Shebekah, and the sons of Rima, Sheba, and Dedan. This Dedan gonna come up again, so get ready for that. It says in 8, and Cush begot Nimrod. He began to be a mighty man in the earth. Read that again. Cush begot Nimrod, and he began to be a mighty man in the earth. Okay? He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord. And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, Erech, Akkad, Cadna, whatever it is, in the land of Shinar. Out of that land went forth Asher and built in Nineveh, and the city of Reba and Caleb, and Rezin begot between Nineveh and Caleb, the same as the great city. 13, and Mizraim begot Ludim. And I already showed you these giants, these descendants of giants. So 13, and Mizraim begot Ludim, and Anam, and Leabim, and Neph. Okay, I can't pronounce it. Where is him? And then you get on down to 15, and Canaan begot Zidon, and his firstborn Heth, and the Jebusites, and the Amorites. See that? They go to Amorites, and the Gerishites, and the Hivites, and the Arcadians, and the Sinites. So you see that when the children of Israel came into the land of Israel, there were 7 nations there. And one of these nations is Amorites. Amorites, and what happened is, if you read this, you'll see in verse 6 of chapter 10, the sons of Ham, Cush, Mizraim. See that? So there's Mizraim. When you write the divide there, Mizraim is a giant. And there's only one way to get a giant, and that's from an angelic being coming down and sleeping with an earthly woman. So out of Ham's lineage, you got a giant, a race of giants right there. Mizraim, they came from Mizraim. And so you say, what you talking about? Pick it up, Mizraim lineage, verse 13. Chapter 10, verse 13, and Mizraim begot Ludim. See, all them giants. And they came out of Mizraim. So what that tells you is that Enoch tells us that these 200 angels came down, descended from heaven, and they came on Mount Hermon. Remember that. They came down on Mount Hermon, and then from Mount Hermon, they started sleeping with these women on the earth that they had been watching, because they over these people. Right? You got an angel over Israel, Lord of hosts, Michael, he's over Israel. He on a mountain. He on Mount Sinai. He on Mount Horeb. It's where Moses met him at. Then Yahweh, he on this mountain, so he's over Israel. So let's go back and look who where Ham originated from. I'm in Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. Got people fumbling with this. So I'm in Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. We see up until that point, the Most High had the 4th day, 5th day, 6th day, and all that, right? So then we get to the 6th day. And it says, God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let him have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth, right? So then 27 says, so he created man, created. See that? He created man. That means he spoke him with his mouth. He spoke him into existence. In his own image, in the image God created he him, male and female. So it's a man and a woman right here. This ain't none of Adam. This on the 6th day. This who Ham is right here. Then he said, 28, and God blessed them. And God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply, replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moves on earth. So we see right here, so he got angels that's over these, watching over these people right here. I call them 6-day people, 6-day man. He created them on the 6th day. Then chapter 2. We've been over this before. You can go and look at our videos on Prophet's Awakening. It says, chapter 2, thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and the host of them. And on the 7th day, God, Yahweh, ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the 7th day from all his work which he had made. And God blessed the 7th day, sanctified it, because in it he had rested from all his work which God had created and made. In verse 4, these are the generations of the heavens and the earth when they were created in the day that the Lord God, now here you go, now we got a Lord God. Lord God made the earth and the heavens, and every plant of the field before it was in the earth, and every herb of the field before it grew. For the Lord God, dealing with another being now. The Lord God had not caused it to rain upon the earth, and there was not a man to till the ground. Well, he just made a man and a woman over here. It's the same people, same man. So now verse 6, there went up a mist from the earth and watered the whole face of the ground. Then the Lord God formed the man from the dust of the ground, breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. So this Adam right here, it's not no woman with him, but the man over here in Genesis 1:26 and 27 is got a woman with him when he created him. And so you say, what are you talking about? Go back to chapter 10. This is who Ham is. Ham ain't no Gentile. Japhet is a Gentile. And Ham, just Ham right here. And so those angels that came down on Mount Hermon was supposed to be watching that man. They was in charge of that particular race of those people. And they came down and they started interbreeding with them. That was in the land of Ham. That was in Africa. That's how you get these people from, that's how you get Mezarine in verse 6. And then they extend Mezarine's household from 13 to verse 20. And the Amorites are part of that. The Amorites are part of that. Those Genesis 6. Genesis 6 is where the breakdown comes, and the book of Enoch expands even further on that, on what happened. So these giants right here, and from 13 to 20, they got human characteristics, but they also have supernatural characteristics that they receive from their fathers. These angels. Okay, so let's keep going. Dive into this. So with that being said, the Most High made a statement, like I said, that stuck out like a sore storm in Genesis chapter 15, verse 16. He says, but in the 4th generation, they shall come hither again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. So what is this iniquity of the Amorites? Okay, a flood came. And the flood came because of what these fallen angels had done. They had came and slept with women on the earth and created these giants. And these giants was cannibals. They was eating everything up. They was destroying the Most High planet, his creation. And these giants were sleeping with other giants, sleeping with other people, sleeping with animals, the fallen angels sleeping with animals, and his Most High creation went all the way to the left. It was only one man and his son Shem was left. And the Most High, that's when he brought the flood. He called Noah and told him what he going to do. And Noah prophesied for 120 years and the flood came. And that flood was to destroy all these people. All these misfits and offshoots that came from the angels coming down sleeping with the women. So, some people might not have heard this before, but, we're at the end. So it's time to connect some dots. So that's what I'm doing. So here we go. These Amorites is we're gonna go into how what these Amorites was doing and what their location was and all that. We're gonna connect all this with the you've been told not to deal with Enoch, but when you finish with this information, you don't have a book of Enoch, you're gonna run and go get one. So we're gonna go through this first. I'll play this. Let me get back over here. Then we're gonna walk it out. Okay. Just the origins, a little video on the origins of the Amorites. Okay.
This production is brought to you by Ancient Order.
Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay.
Reconstructing the story of humanity's past. And the YouTube channel, The Study of Antiquity and the Middle Ages. The Amorites, Bronze Age invaders who united an empire. Written by Jason Jarrell and Sarah Farmer. Narrated by D.W. Draffin. Sometime during the 3rd millennium BCE, a group of nomadic raiders expanded out of their mountainous homelands in Syria and stormed Mesopotamia. They were known as the Martu, or Tidnu, to the Sumerians, and the Amar, to the Egyptians. These names denote of the West, or the Western people. In the book of Genesis, chapter 10, verse 16, these people are referred to as the Amorites, descendants of Canaan. The scriptures also state that the Amorites had gigantic chiefs and warriors among them. Amos 2:9 compares the size and strength of the Amorites to the cedar tree, while in Numbers 32:29-32, the Amorites are among the peoples of great stature encountered by the Israelite spies. The Amorite chief Og is described in Deuteronomy 3:11 as of the remnant of giants. In Arcadian, both the Amorites and Syria itself were named after Amuru, a deity of the Amorites. Amuru is also known as Belu Sadi, or Lord of the Mountains, while his divine consort Belit Seri was Lady of the Desert. Jebel Bishri tombs of Amorite kings. The Martu are mentioned in a tablet from Tel Farah, dated to around 2550 BCE. Martu,
you're going to come to find out that it suppressed this information.
Mardu appears on the 24th century BCE Ebla tablets as a name for both a geographic region as well as its inhabitants. According to Lundqvist, 2008, some scholars have specifically identified the Amorite homeland with Jebel Bishri, a mountain region situated between Palmyra and the Euphrates River.
Okay, it's a mountain. Yeah, it's associated with a mountain. So, like I said, it's an angelic being or beings on these mountains. That's how you get these giants.
Similarly, Michael Astor, 1992, has also traced Marduk-ki, the Amorite homeland in the Ebla tablets, to Jebel Bishri. The Mari texts make it clear that during the Bronze Age, Jebel Bishri was the territory of at least two Amorite tribes, the Suteans and the Yamanites. There are more than 400 stone burial mounds, or cairns, on the northern and western slopes of Jebel Bishri, The mound fields were generational burial places of the Amorites, and several were utilized for many centuries. For example, Ristevet, 2015, found the use of the Tor Rahum cairns has been dated to between 1900 and 1600 BCE. According to Silver, 2014, the tumuli of Jebel Bishri frequently cover stone ring walls surrounding stone burial cists, which contain the remains of dead Amorite chiefs. At Tel Banat in northern Syria, an Amorite occupation dating to between 2450 and 2000 BCE produced an extraordinary tumulus known as the White Monument, measuring 100 meters, 328 feet in diameter, and 20 meters, 65.61 feet high. The outer layer of the White Monument was originally stepped like a Mesopotamian ziggurat. Excavations have revealed that use of the site began with several mounds of stone and earth containing human burials, animal bones, and pottery, after which a single larger tumulus was built to cover the smaller monuments between 2600 and 2450 BCE. Finally, the outer stepped layer was raised overall by 2300 BCE. Amorite invasions. By the Middle Bronze Age, circa 2300 to 2000 BCE, the Amorites had invaded the Levant and Middle Euphrates region. Garfinkel,
they showed up down in the Levant as part of the Middle East, Israel and all that area. So now they down here. Well, you know, the Israelites right now, the Israelites in captivity in Babylon, captivity in Egypt, but these people here that moved down from these mountains where they was originated from. They down here in the Levant, so-called. They're putting you in that area that we know of in the Middle East.
2007 described tombs of this period that contain what have become known as warrior burials, as defined by a particular assemblage of grave goods, including distinctive pottery, javelins, daggers, axes, and spearheads. The Amorites spread from the Levant into Arabia via the Middle Euphrates, where they developed into a multitude of tribal groups with polities and networks.
So there it is right there. See, this is Egypt, Memphis right here, Egypt. They go Jerusalem. See all these Amorites. These are all giants. You know, if you did any kind of research, you know that this coming up. They go Europe right there. That's gonna come up in a minute. But see all these areas right here, these giants here, and this region is where Mount Hermon at. Mount Hermon is Egypt, right here, right up in here. Mount Hermon in here. And you see that word right there, A-M-U-R-E. That's Amuru. So that's the source of them. So that Amuru is, they come to find out when you do the research, that's Lucifer. Okay? But we're going to see that in a minute. You're going to say, well, what the hell are you talking about? We're going to see what's going on in a minute. Anyway, so the thing about this here was that if you want to watch all that, that's the origins of the Amorites, Bronze Age invaders that united an empire. So go back over here. Yeah, so the thing about these Amorites is 7 nations that came, that was in the land of Israel when the Israelites came to the land, and the Most High told the Israelites that he was going to subdue those 7 nations, and he's going to give them over to. He gave them over to the Israelites, made them subject to the Israelites. So I was telling you that DNA, when you understand how DNA works, these angelic beings got, each one of them, they got different characteristics, because when the Most High created them, they had their name tell you what they was capable of doing. The Most High had roles that they had to play, and things they were doing, like angels of snow, angels of dew, angels of this and that. So when they came down and started speaking with these women, those giants acquired some of those characteristics. What the Amorites acquired was they was able to, and the main thing, they had the strength, and they lived so long. That's why they never would submit to the Most High. But these Amorites had the ability to, they called them shades. They had the ability to disappear and appear in different realities, different dimensions. And so you say, well, what you talking about? Well, Enoch has said, and Enoch told us that when these angelic beings died, that spirit didn't come from heaven. That spirit is bound to the earth. So when these giants died, we know at least 1 million of them died from the flood. And the water, the floods came and drowned them, where all these spirits didn't go nowhere. He said, Enoch tells us these spirits was going to be here and afflict Adam's descendants until the Most High come back and judge earth at the end. So these spirits is going to steady, afflict mankind. So they still have their countenance and everything. So these Amorites had the ability to, like I said, go into different dimensions and in and out of different dimensions and keep on existing. That's why you would, I don't know if anybody know about this, but they got this I think they call it the Arcadian kings list. And they got on that, on some of these kings, they got on there where they lived 3,500 years. They reigned for 3,500 years. Well, that's these Amorites. And like I said, Enoch had already told us that these spirits, these beings can't die. They can't die. Not necessarily they'll lose their body, but they still operating and doing the same thing they was doing in this dimension. So when you understand that, we're gonna go to two places that I'm gonna read that, which never made any sense at first, but now getting this right here, you start to see something else totally going on. And that's who behind the scenes, even today, dictating stuff and doing stuff, is that these Amorites. That's what the Most High is talking about the iniquity of the Amorites. And not only that, these Amorites got these long necks. They serpentine, they was mixed with these serpentine beings that came from heaven. These it's a priesthood. They came from heaven. Satan cast a third of them out with him. They was under his control. And they came to the earth. So they had these long necks. And like I said, we already went over there. We see that DNA all over the place now. Now that our eyes open. So they had these long necks. We see that in Tutankhamun and Akhenaten. They had long necks. And it's coming from these Amorites. And these Amorites hated Israelites. Out of those 7 nations, those Amorites hated the Israelites with a disdain. They hated the Israelites. They were vicious. Right. So they had the most stuff going on with them, as far as they wasn't just human and they wasn't just angelic being. They had those angels have been mixing with all kind of stuff. And that's where these Amorites came from. So I'm gonna give you an example of what I'm talking about. So Enoch tells us that when they died, they couldn't ascend to heaven. Like Moses, when Moses died, it says Moses was ascended to his fathers. Then Abraham died, he ascended. His father's up in heaven. Enoch tells you it's chambers. So that spirit that's in the Israelite, when they die, that spirit goes back to the Most High where it came from. So I'm in 2 Samuel chapter 23, 22, maybe 22. Give you an example. So we reading over this, but now that we got this information coming out, we can see. So it says, like I said, I'm just open the door up for somebody to start doing some research. It says David had passed away. I'm in chapter 2 Samuel 22. I'm gonna start at verse 1. And David spoke unto the Lord the words of this song in the day that the Lord had delivered him out of the hands of all his enemies and out of the hands of the Saul. And he said, the Lord is my rock, my fortress, and my deliverer, God of my rock. In him will I trust. He is my shield and the horn of my salvation, my high tower, my refuge, my Savior. Thou savest me from violence. And I will call on the Lord, who is worthy to be praised. So shall he be saved. So shall I be saved from my enemies. We're going to see who his enemies is. So when the waves of death compass me, the flood, see this when they died. He says, when the waves of death compass me, he passed away. says, the floods of ungodly men made me afraid. Now he in a dimension where these beings at. He didn't shed his body. Now he see they there. So we know that David and his forefathers spirit ascend once they die. The scene. So here we go. So now David done died. He done left his body, and now he see all these ungodly beings all around, right? So look what he say. It says 6, and the sorrow of hell compassed me about. The snares of death prevented me. So they trying to stop him from ascending. They can't ascend. So they trying to stop him from ascending. 7, in my distress, I called unto the Lord. I cried unto my God, and he did hear my voice out of his temple, and my cry did enter into his ears. Then the earth shook, right? And it trembled. Foundations of heaven moved and shook because he was wroth. And there went up a smoke out of his nostrils, and fire out of his mouth. Devoured coals were kindled by it. And he bowed the heavens also, came down. Darkness was under his feet. And he rode upon a cherubim and did fly. And he was seen upon the wings of the wind. And he made darkness a pavilion round about him, dark waters and thick clouds of the sky. And through the brightness before him were coals of fire kindled. And the Lord thundered from heaven. See, we know where he coming from. You know, we can't fumble with it. The Lord thundered from heaven. And the Most High uttered his voice, and he sent out arrows and scattered them. Scattered these wicked ass spirits I told you about that can't ascend. They done died and lost their bodies, but they still here on earth, wreaking havoc, like Enoch told us. So that's what David found himself at. And he called on the Lord. It says 16, and the channels of the sea were appeared. Foundations of the world was discovered. At the rebuking of the Lord, at the blast of his breath of his nostrils, he sent from above. He took me, drew me out of many waters. From among them, he delivered me from my strong enemies, and from them that hated me. And they were too strong for me. They prevented me. See that? In the day of my calamity when he died. But the Lord was my stay. He brought me forth also into a large place, and he delivered me because he delighted in me. See that? So that's what David's talking about. We've been fumbling with that. So now here go another place. So Ezekiel. I'm gonna read you some stuff that come from some tablets and stuff that they found. Didn't make no sense up until now. But let me get Ezekiel right quick. So I think it's chapter 14. Let's see. In a minute. Okay. Okay. Okay, I'm trying to find it. I don't see it. So I'm dealing with okay. Okay, I'm in chapter 28 of Ezekiel. This is Prince of Tyrus rebuked. It says, verse 1, the word of the Lord came again unto me, saying, Son of man, say to the Prince of Tyrus, thus says the Lord God, because thine heart is lifted up, and thou hast said, I am a God, and I sit in the seat of God in the midst of the seas. Yet thou art a man, and not a God, and thou set thine heart as the heart of God. Behold, thou art wiser than Daniel. There is no secret that they hide from thee. With thy wisdom and with thine understanding, thou hast gotten thee riches, and hast gotten gold and silver into the treasures, and by thy great wisdom and by thy traffic, as thou increased thy riches, and thine heart is lifted up because of the riches. Therefore, thus says the Lord God, because thou hast set thine heart as the heart of God, because behold, therefore I will bring strangers upon thee, the terrible of the nations, and they shall draw their swords against the beauty of thy wisdom, and they shall defile thy brightness. They shall bring thee down to the pit, and thou shalt die like the death of them that are slain in the midst of the seas. Will thou yet say before him that slayeth him, I am God, but thou shalt be a man, and no God, in the hand of him that slayeth thee. Thou shalt die the death of the uncircumcised by the hand of strangers, for I have spoken it, said the Lord God. See that? It's the Lord God. Moreover, the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, take up a lamentation upon the king of tyrants. See that? We already see what this is. This Lucifer. So it says, Son of man, take up a lamentation upon the king of tyrants, and say to him, Thus says the Lord God, thou sealest up the song full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. That's Satan. That's Lucifer. Thou hast been in Eden, but he's in Tyre. He's in Tyre. So this is actually the king that's over Tyre. But like the guy said, shades. So that means he shapeshift, and he can go in and out of different dimensions and all that. That's what these Amorites had the ability to do. So it says, 12, Son of man, take up a lamentation upon the king of Tyre, and say unto him, Thus says the Lord God, thou sealest up the song of full of beauty, perfect in beauty. Thou hast been in Eden. See that? King of Tyre ain't been in Eden. The garden of God. Every precious stone was thy covering. The sardis and topaz, the diamond, the beryl, the onyx, the jasper, the sardis, the emerald, and the carbuncle, and the gold, and the workmanship of thy tabrets, and thy pipes were prepared in thee in the day that thou was created. Thou art anointed cherub. See that? Cherub is an angel, angelic being. But he's talking to the king of Tyre. Says that coverage, I have set thee so. Thou was upon the holy mountain of God. Thou hast walked up and down in the midst of the stones of fire. Thou was perfect in thy ways from the day that thou was created, till iniquity was found in thee. Right? What iniquity? So we see now these Amorites got iniquity in them. And we know what the iniquity is in him, in Satan. He's been going from one place to the next, transposing himself, shape-shifting, doing all, and deceiving people all over the place. So 16 says, by the multitude of thy merchandise, they have filled the midst of thee with violence, and thou hast seen. Therefore will I cast thee as a profane out of the mountain of God, and I will destroy thee, O covenant cherubim, from the midst of stones of fire. Thine heart was lifted up because of thy beauty, and thou hast corrupted thy wisdom by reason of thy brightness. And I will cast thee out to the ground, and I will lay thee before kings, that they may behold thee. So these kings is these giants. That's why Israel wanted the giant, wanted the tall, wanted Saul, because Saul had height. And when they came out of Egypt, passed through the wilderness, they had ran into all these giants, these Amorite giants. I just showed you the location where they was at when Israel came out of Egypt. So, like I said, what a lot of people not understanding is these Amorites is all tied to Egypt and all that. Those dynasties that was in Egypt, they all tied to Mizraim. They was in Egypt. They was all over in the land of Canaan, all over the place. But they was all linked together, especially the Amorites. It was all linked together, but that information is being obstructed and being skewed, and we ain't been getting it right because they're just giving you they give you the story, but you don't know the goings on of what was going on and what was happening and who's who and all this stuff and how they became who and all that. We don't know that, but like I said, it's coming out now. So let me go another place. So like I was just read in Ezekiel, the Lord of hosts is talking to the king of Tyre in Tyre, but we know it's Lucifer. It's not a man. It's a cherub. It's a man. It's an angelic being, and he had the ability to transform himself and shapeshift. And if you go back and do your research, you'll find out that was the characteristics they gave Zeus. That's what he was doing. That's how he had 18 children. He was coming down, transforming himself into looking like the king, and then he go in and sleep with the king's wife, and then he leave. And then she is pregnant for a kid for him, and she thinks she slept with her husband. But he's shape-shifting. That's what these Amorites had the ability to do. They was elusive. So anyway, let's go and like I say, you go do your research, if I sound like a nutcase. So it says, these Amorites was a crossbreed in between the Raphaim. You can go do your research on the Raphaim. I told you those Raphaim was hated Israelites. That's what hatred that the Amorite had for Israel and for God's people it came from these Raphaim, and these Raphaim is a cross between Nephilim, which is those original giants that came from the angels when they slept with women, and these Raphaim. Because what they're doing is they transforming themselves, because over the years when the Messiah took away the source that the giants came on the earth, he had those, Enoch tells you, he locked those 200 angels up. So they wasn't getting that big as the first original Nephilim. They wasn't getting that big, but they still had height, but they wasn't as big as the original ones, and they potency, those characteristics and DNA that they got, those divine characteristics they got, wasn't as potent as in the beginning. The first giants that came from the angels. So I'm gonna read this right here. Let me see if I can find it. So the Most High, Lord host, got a covenant with David, right? And we know the story. He told David, out of David's lineage, you're gonna always have a son on the throne. Well, this being I told you, Amaru, is Lucifer, and he got a covenant with this king. Hold on, let me get it. He got a covenant with this king named Uric. I'm gonna give you his name so you can Google it yourself. Kere, right? So his name is Kere, and you can go get it. It's a book called The Legends of King Curie. So let's go and look at it. Let me get it. Okay. Okay, so let me get it. It says in the classic story, when the big bad wolf finds out that a little Red Riding Hood is going to her grandmother's house, he races ahead in order to set up a trap. Satan made a similar move on Abraham. God called Abraham out of the Babylonian system and promised to give him the land of Canaan. As Abraham made his journey, Satan went ahead of him and set a trap. We're going to look at the trap. Okay. See, what is interesting is that God coordinated events that let Abraham know that something weird was happening in the promised land with the Amorites. After Abraham daring rescue of his nephew Lot, God told Abraham not to be afraid of the people he had just confronted, which included the Raphaim in Asheroth, Curie, that's a town, and Zebzum, that's in Deuteronomy. These are race of giants in Deuteronomy chapter 2. And Emim, they in chapter 2. God told him that the land was his, but his descendants would end up living in Egypt and would come back in the fourth generation because the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet complete. As Genesis 15 and 16, I just read that. So the question is, what is the iniquity of the Amorites? Let's keep going. Abraham did not raise his hand and ask God who the Amorites were or what their iniquity was. He seemed to know, based on the accounts of his rescue mission to save Lot. He knew that they were Nephilim. So these Nephilim ascended from when the angel slept with the woman to get the Nephilim. He also knew that the Nephilim equal Raphaim and the other tribes of giants, as we see in scriptures. The descendants of Anak came from the giants, the Nephilim. That's Numbers 13 and verse 33. So the Anakim equals the Nephilim. Moses said the Eman, the people great and many and tall as the Anakim, also counted as Raphaim, but the Moabites called them Eman. That's Deuteronomy chapter 2, verses 10 through 11. So we can put an equal sign showing Anakim equals Raphaim, which equals Eman, which of course equals Nephilim, Amorites, Anakim, Raphaim, Eman, Nephilim. So, like I said before, you might not be came across this information, but if you go to Deuteronomy chapter 2, you're going to see all these races of giants in Genesis chapter 2, if you don't believe that it was giants on the earth. So anyway, thus the Nephilim, the angelic human hybrids, were known by many names. The Raphaim formerly lived there, but the Ammonites called them Zezum, the people great and many and tall in the Anakim, right? Then King Og of Basin, he was left of the remnant of the Raphaim. Basin is called the land of Raphaim. So this particular race right here, this is where these Amorites came from. And I told you they had the characteristics to shape shift. They said shade, you know, they were saying shade, but I'm gonna keep going. And hopefully this stuff will start, it'll start becoming more clear. So then, so it was two of them that was left from these particular race of Amorites, was Og and Og of Bashan and let me get that. Shiloh, or what mean Shihan and Og was the only two Amorites that was left. So the Septuagint frequently translate Nephilim, Raphaim, and Anakim as gigantes, which is a Greek mythology sign, signified a class of half God, half men beings. The Septuagint translate Nephilim as Gaborim in Genesis, as giants. Nimrod began to be a giant, thus the iniquity of the Amorites appears to have been something akin to what Nimrod did in becoming a Gibor. The Amorites became Gaborim. They were becoming hybrids. So what he's showing you is that just like when these angels came down in Genesis 6, they started having children, giant children, just like Esau. Esau married into the Horite. It was a race of giants in on Mount Seir. It was called Horites. And Esau married into them, and he got giants because he married these giant women. He got Amalek and Zephno. They were giants. They became giants. So what the guy showing you, the light he's shining on, is that they became giants, just like Nimrod did. Nimrod became a giant, right? So it says, we know Ham wasn't no giant. He was created on the 6th day. But these angels came down and started sleeping with him, and they started getting with the daughters of Ham, and they ended up getting giants. That's in Genesis chapter 10, from verses 13 all the way to 20. So we know that they did not start out as Nephilim because they are listed as the children of Canaan in Genesis 10. We also know that they were not a remnant of giants from the days of Noah, because God repeatedly stated, all in whose nostrils were the breath of life, or the spirit of life, all that was on dry land died, but all that was in the water didn't die, right? So contrary to the latter myths, no giants hitched a ride on the ark, thus the second incursion of the angels into this world occurred. We already saw how it happened to them with Nimrod. Satan then repeated either directly or indirectly through Nimrod a program to create habits. The name of the Amorite god provides clues to help us put together the story. Okay, so I'm gonna stop right there for a minute. Anybody got any questions? Are you lost or whatever? What you got?
I'm following you. It's something.
Okay.
Wow.
Got any questions or comments so far?
No, not yet. You answered the questions when you were reading about the king of Tyrus. I did not know that, but I see where that comes from, though.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's where we being hoodwinked at, because we're not understanding what these these going on people's head. That these giants got supernatural characteristics. We're just looking at it as they giants, but they got their fathers are angelic beings, and then each one of these angelic beings got different supernatural characteristics. That's where this witchcraft now that coming from. That side that we don't know nothing about, but it's the people on the so-called Illuminati and all them. They have this information on how to interact with these beings.
Right.
We don't have
Exactly.
it. We throw it
Right.
off from them. See what I'm saying?
Right.
So,
And one thing that we should be more aware of is when our behavior not shape shift, but shift like it does.
right.
That's wicked.
Oh yeah, right, exactly, right. But that's been lost. That's been lost once they got hold of our text and our scriptures, they didn't hoodwink that. So we they just give us what they want us to have. Like for instance, they didn't use propaganda and just totally annihilated the book of Enoch. They got the average Israelite, he thinks something wrong with the book of Enoch. They won't even pick it up. When that's where the information is there. That's the trigger. You don't have no book of Enoch, you're gonna be forever in the dark, falling backwards in the dark, because you don't have the pure understanding of what's going on.
Right.
You're coming into the story ass backwards. So anyway, he says, we know that they did not start out as Nephilim because they were listed as children. So we said, was Nimrod the Amorite god? The god of the Amorites, I told you earlier who this Amaru was. The god of the Amorites, Martu, Amaru, went by many names such as Dagon, Moloch, Adu, Istar, and had he had the epic of Curie, the Great Mountain. See, that's the Great Mountain, which was I can say that word, epic Elil. I don't know if anybody Elil rang a bell for some people, but this Elil is a so-called god that's in the epic of Gilgamesh. It's a story, an ancient story that was on I think those cuneiform tablets. So anyway, it said, demonstrating that they were one of the same God. So they all this Amaru, Mutu, all this is the same person, Lucifer, same God. Just like I showed you, Most High was talking to him in Tyre. So this also means that all these gods are one and the same God, and they all are disguised. They all are disguises of Satan. See that? Okay. Keep going. So he's the architect behind this. Okay. Let me see where I'm at. Okay. So I lost my sway. Okay. See where I'm at. Okay. This also means that all that these gods are one and the same. Okay. Then Martu has many traits of the West Semitic storm god, such as Hadad. According to the Sumerian hymn, Amaru is a warrior god. See what he's doing? He's trying to emulate his Lord of Hosts. Amru is a warrior god, strong as a lion. See that? All these is the Lord of hosts characteristics, equipped with a bow and an arrow, and using storm and thunder as his weapon. See, he emulating the Lord of hosts. Says, see that? So the epic as characteristics, and Mark 2, and here we go, right here. This is where the woman come in at, right? So it says, epithets, I can't say that word, and characteristics, Mark 2, and Naduru, Murdoch, etc., son of Elah, the warrior, bows and arrows, and storm guard are perfect matches and indicators of Eliel. We must therefore conclude that we are speaking about the same entity, despite the variations of names. It is hard to ignore the similarity between the names. We have already considered how Ninuratu was deliberately distorted in the Bible as let's rebel, Nimrod. The root letters being NRD with the initials N, meaning let's. Murdoch, a synchronism of Ninutu, Amru is a Samaritan, and Murdoch in Arcadian. The root letters, let me keep on, I gotta keep on sliding this thing down. Okay. Says the root letters MRT are the same, is the case for the Mark 2, or the similarities coincide. Simply further proof that we are looking at the same entity. Furthermore, Mertu, Eliel, and Murdoch. Murdoch is in Babylon. So he's one of the dying and resurrected saviors, from out of the 16 crucified saviors. It is implausible to make the claim that Mertu is Murdoch. The linguist questions aside, A.T. Clay has already gone on record to say that Mertu, Amru, Eliel, hence the god of the Amorites, is ultimately Satan, or the son of Satan. We learned in the Samaritan literature that Eliel engendered Netu, and Netu held the tablets of destiny. So here we go. See, this N-I, I'll give you the name, this is a woman. Eliel engendered, meaning he slept with this N-I, N-U-R-T-A, and then she held, look at this, she held the tablets of destiny. That's wisdom. She hold the tablets. She got wisdom. See that? Which is to say, he held all of Satan's powers. See that? How they twisted it off and tricked you off. Said the throne and the authority. Amru is a synchronization of this woman right here and Murdoch, both the sons of Eliel. Keep going, because it became a Gibora, a giant or a hybrid. The Raphim derives from Rapha, which means to heal. Here we go. We go to JC story right here. Says Rapha, which means to heal, or mind you, or repair. In a sense, Nimrod was healed, say, of his human fatalities by becoming a hybrid. All of the Raphim underwent this transformation. Healing, which was a grave sin. It was the iniquity of the Amorites. So what I want you to get out of this is, he said that healing was a sin. Ain't that what JC came doing, healing? Hello?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
So let's keep going.
Wow.
So now we're dealing with the word Raphim. The term Raphim song suggests that the progenitor of the race was the first Raphael, healed or healer. The term Raphim is usually considered to be a form of the root, meaning to heal. See that? It's coming from these wicked ass giants, these Raphim, Amorites. And it's generally, and I told you where Phoenicia was. Phoenicia is in Galilee. Correct? We did a class on that. The term Raphim is usually considered to be from the root meaning to heal, and is generally understood to mean healers or disease-free. The linguistic link between Raphim and the root RP, to heal, is found in the Isaiah 26:14 and Psalms 88:11. The healer will not rise up, the Raphim, by virtue of their connection with the neither world. See, here we go right here, the neither world, where healers, the definition of healer was accepted as the ancient definition and is accepted by most scholars. So this neither world, like I showed you the connection with Mizraim in Genesis chapter 10, from chapter 10 all the way to 20 was all giants. And these giants dealing with a neither world. So it's a place they go to when they die. They can't ascend to heaven. So it's a place they go, it's a place they at. That's what the Egyptians was dealing with. That's where Thor and all these entities out of the Egyptian pantheon, they in this neither world. Come on. So anyway, and they all related. Okay. So however, why were the Rephaim known as healers? The notion of healing had to come from somewhere, but we clearly see in the scriptures that the Rephaim were known as Nephilim or giants. We only see Rephaim after the flood. The Nephilim and the Gaborim are translated as giants. Nimrod was therefore the first of the Rephaim. He was the first healer. His Mesopotamian name, Ninutu, and I can't say that word, carried the connotation of being a healer. So Nimrod, the first one. Nimrod was the first one, this healer, expected his healer to come on the scene. But anyway, notice how that Nimrod got a female and male characteristics, just like the Baphomet.
So this Nunurta,
yeah,
is tied in.
Huh?
Explain that again, what you just said.
It's a woman and a man. You ever seen the Baphomet?
Yes.
Right. You got a male and woman, male and female characteristics.
Right.
That coming from the Most High never wanted them to mix those two angelic DNA with human DNA.
Okay.
That's where homosexuality came from.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Giants was homosexual. So like I said, do your research. That's where they come from. When they mix angelic DNA with human DNA. That's the origins of it. Okay. So anyway, he says Nanuta, or whatever his name, Nunurta, son of Eli, known for being a dragon. Here we go. See, you go to the neck part. For being a dragon, and hence the son of a dragon was synchronized with a snake god known as Tepat, or I can't say that name, who was clearly the Lord of healing, according to the etymology of his name. So now you can't fumble with it. Didn't the Egyptians have a hawk and a snake on top of their head?
Yes, and that's where the snake comes wrapped around that cross for nursing symbols and all that. Mm-hmm.
All of it come out of Egypt. It's coming from these giants from Mizraim. Right? Okay, so it says, Lord Healer is the son of, I can't say that one, he's a king of snakes in the old Babylonian incantations, and in incantations, and in several other ways related to death and the realm of the dead. Perhaps at one time, as his rulers, his dragon is can't say that word anyway. So, like I was saying before, this death, dying, and resurrection thing come from what Enoch told us. They can't ascend in heaven. They still bound here on earth. They didn't lost their body, but they still here. These giants, they can't ascend in heaven because the spirit that's in man that the Most High created and formed, it ascends. But the spirit that's in these giants, let's read it. Most High tell you right here in Genesis chapter 6. He says, Genesis chapter 6 says, and it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God, angels, saw the daughters of men that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. So if they became a wife, that means they consummated the relationship. He went into them. Then 3, Genesis 6 and 3, and the Lord said, my spirit, that's the spirit the man he put his spirit in. My spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he shall also that he also is flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. So the spirit that's in these giants ain't come from him. It's a mingled spirit. So when that giant passed, that spirit is bound here on the earth. And Enoch tells you going up against man, the people that the Most High created and formed. They're going up against them, afflicting them, tormenting them until the Most High come back and clean all that up. So it says Nimrod was called a healer, a Raphaim, because he was changed from a mortal man to be an immortal. He became disease-free through his transformation from man to God. His power was to heal. Others were not the kind of powers Jesus. See that? See, now they want to separate that from him, Jesus and him. See, his power was to heal. Others were not the kind of power Jesus had over the disease, which made a person whole, rather than Nimrod's power was to transform people into Nephilim or Raphaim. So let's look at that. Let's knock a hole in that. So I'm showing you this Jesus, all this story with Jesus coming from this. It's got an earlier origin. So I'm in 2 Samuel right quick. Let me get it. Second Samuel, chapter 6, I think it is. Yeah, this when David came into. I'm showing you. We see here through this little study that it was giants all over the Levant, all over the Middle East. It was giants all over that place. Raphaim, 7 nations of giants. The Most High tell us in Genesis chapter 14. So I'm in chapter 5. When Israel then became a nation, David over them, and we in verse 6, chapter 5 and 6. And the king and his men went up to Jerusalem unto the Jebusites, this race of giants, the inhabitants of the land, which spake unto David, saying, except thou take away the blind, take away the blind and the lame, thou shalt not come hither. Thinking David cannot come in hither. Nevertheless, David took the stronghold of Zion, the same as the city of David. And look at this, what David said. David the Messiah. David said on that day, whosoever get up to the gutter and smite the Jebusites, right? So, and then he add this to it, and the lame and the blind that are hated of by David's soul, he shall be chief captain. So David hated the lame and the blind because he know where these defects came from. Came from these angels. When these angels came down and slept with men, he had all these defects. They didn't originate from the Most High. So if they didn't originate from the Most High, he ain't sending no damn son to clean it up. So I'm gonna read that again on this article. It says Nimrod was called a healer, a Raphaim, because he was changed from a mortal man to be immortal. He became disease-free through his transformation from man to God. His power was to heal others, were not the kind of power Jesus had. It is the same power, because the story of Jesus comes from the story of Nimrod, and he's raised from. That's where it's coming from. They're trying to separate the two, but he ain't got. David right here says the Most High, he hates the lame and the blind because the Most High hates the lame and the blind because of where they came from. Is that making any sense?
Yes.
Okay, we'll keep going. Okay, so when Abraham's kids finally did return from Egypt, Satan had a housewarming gift waiting in the form of the iniquity of the Amorites, the Rephaim, the Eman, the Zezim, the Anakim, who were once regular people. See that? But see, when these angels came down, they started having giants among these people. Say, but who became Gaborim, that is hybrids. The 12 spies fearfully reported the Amorites are stronger than we are, and all the people that we saw in it are of great height. And there we saw the Nephilim, the sons of Anak, who came from the Nephilim. Numbers 13:29-33. The spies were not exaggerating because God says in Amos 22:9, yet it was I who destroyed the Amorites before them, whose height was like the height of cedars. Amos 2:9. God himself also used the height of the cedars in the comparison with the tail of the behalf of them all. Behemoth, describing Job 40. And Behemoth moved his tail like a cedar, Job 40, 15 through 18. A cedar of Lebanon is about 40 to 50 feet tall, right? Behemoth is the dinosaur, and their tails measure 40 to 50 feet long. The Israelite spies were not overstating the danger they saw in the giants in the land. Okay? Anybody got a comment? I'm getting ready to get to the end of this. We'll pick up some more of it next time we meet. Says, from the time God told Abraham about the perversion of the Rephaim until his descendants returned to the land was 600 years. Thus, Satan had time to race ahead and prepare for the arrival. The big bad wolf had set up the trap for Abraham's kids. According to here we go right here. According to the Uric text, the region of Bashan. This is what I was going to tell you about. I mentioned earlier. According to the Ugaric text, the region of Bashan was known as the abode of the god king, the dead and the defying king. His place of enthronement was Europa, was an amazing correspondence with the biblical tradition about the seat of the king of Bashan. Keep going. You're going to see what this region is at. The Bible records the territory of King Bashan, one of the few remaining Rephaites who lived in the Ashtaroth and Adria. Okay, Egyptian documents and two Armenian letters mention rulers of Ashtaroth in the 14th century. Thus, an Ugaric text speaks of dead and defiled king living in the area of Bashan, and the Bible tells us that it was King Og, who was a Rephaim, the same as that was in Uric text. Further reveals that Rephaim god kings was the area of Bashan. They state as the abode of the god king, and defiled kings, synonym. Okay, anyway, so Phoenicia, here we go. I told you Phoenicia Phoenicia and the Sea of Galilee and all that area is the same place. Phoenicia. Phoenician tradition also seems to record the existence of a deity called Og. We saw earlier that the Rephaim were counted among the Amorites and the Nephilim, who were sometimes called Gaborim. Looking at this Septuagint, the word Rephaim is sometimes transliterated, though most of the time it's translated as giants. Okay. So let me see what I'm at. Yeah, I'm gonna read this and then I'm gonna close out. So it says, then we turned and went up the road to Bashan. King of Bashan came out against us, he and all his people, to the battle of Adria. That's Deuteronomy 3:1. And at that time, we took the land from the hands of the two kings of the Amorites who were on the side of Jordan, from the river Ornan to the Mount Hermon. See that? Here we go right here. So we see these Amorites, this is where they lived at. You know, they're giving you all these different names, but he's gonna tell you right here, these two kings, they was left from the Amorites on this side of Jordan. That's when the Israelites crossed the Jordan. From the river Ornan, that's the name of a giant, to Mount Hermon. That's where the 200 angels came down here. That's how you get the giants, when these angels came down off Mount Hermon. So their abode was from the Jordan River to Mount Hermon. So that's what Enoch tells you where they was at. So it's it. Og is called the king of Bashan, king in Hebrew and Europe. Hence, Og is likely himself a carbon copy. Also, Og was a Rephaim, and they were also known as snake gods. See that? This is where the long neck come in at. Known as snake gods. Thus, may explain why a giant Rephaim named Og was king of Bashan. And the word that is the original Hebrew, but it was omitted in many translations. What is Bashan? It's actually had a double meaning. fertile land, and snake dragon. The destination of snake dragon was no joke for the Canaanites of Europe and the Bashan region are part of it, clearly representing hell and the celestial and infernal abode of their deified dead kings, Olympus, Hades, at the same time. This is what David was saying. When he died, he found himself amongst them, and they tried to hinder him and hold him here. So just that region over there, where from Mount Hermon to the Jordan River, that's where they first came in contact with him at. And so, like I said before, they had these characteristics that they got from their fathers. They can shape shift. So I'm gonna read this little part. Then I'm open up for the Q&A, and then I'll close out. He said the land of Bashan is just on the other side of the Jordan River, across. Look at this. Check it out. This ain't no coincidence. Let me get this right quick. Make sure I get it right. So it says the land of Bashan is just on the other side of the Jordan River, across from the Sea of Galilee. See that? This is where these giants, this is where these Amorites is at. Galilee says the land of Bashan is just on the other side of the Jordan River, across from the Sea of Galilee, in the region of the tribe of Zebulun and Naphtali. See that? We can now appreciate why it was later called the land of the shadow of death. They truly were in the shadow of death. This area, of course, has Mount Hermon as its highest peak, which was where the angels came down in the days of Noah in order to make Nephilim bodysuits. See that? So this land of Bashan, Galilee, and Mount Hermon, all in that same region where these giants is at. You think that's a coincidence? Okay. So with that being said, I'm gonna stop right there, and we'll pick it up with some more of that conversation. Hopefully, some people did some research, and we can get a more in-depth dialogue going. Any comments? Anybody got any comments? Okay, everybody good?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, that helps. The last portion that you was covering about Bashan and all that, that's in Deuteronomy. You
Right.
know, that just helps shine a little bit more light on a lot of stuff, you know? Yeah.
Right.
I know for me it does, yeah.
Right. Okay, so we got, like I said before, it's probably gonna be, it's gonna take a couple of classes to get, to put all this out. So I just jumped it out right here. So we go in a little further next time we come together. So with that being said, okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing how all this information and stuff, all the studies start coming to the surface. Okay. I had a little technical difficulties there. I'll say shalom. I'll see everybody tomorrow on Clubhouse at 8 o'clock for Ask Brother Leonard. Shalom.
Shalom.
Okay.